Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Transport Evolved November Hangout. It is, of course, Thanksgiving week here in the US. I hope that you're having a very thankful week.
Yeah, I hope you are too.
Okay, you're a wee bit quiet here. I don't know if that's because I'm extra loud, but
I can move this closer. Actually,
yes.
I can try. It seems to want to fall down, so maybe not.
How are you doing, friend?
Yeah. So weekend, kind of sketch at the beginning. End of the weekend, good because I finished writing my novel. Finished.
When is it going to be available to purchase?
Oh, you're so funny. And then this morning kind of sucked because I went for my run and I found a pothole with my left foot, which then threw me on the ground.
Left foot, Kate.
Yes.
That is not good. Also, I'm glad that you're not too badly hurt, which is good.
Yeah.
We've got to stop hurting the same limbs.
I mean, yes. Although, to be fair, my left ankle is my dodgy one from my motorbike accident. So it's always a bit iffy. And that, yeah. Anyway, so other than that, I'm peachy keen. How about
Right, so I'm good. If you are watching and going, "Oh, Nikki's not wearing any makeup," congratulations, you'd be right. I'm not wearing any makeup because I am still in moderate amounts of pain. For those who don't know, and I realized a long time ago, a lot of people don't watch all of the Transport Evolved videos. I have no understanding why. Some of it is because YouTube doesn't tell people that we have videos, and sometimes it's because people look at our videos and go, "Yeah, I'm not watching that," which is fair enough. But I came off my Vectrex VX1 Hemmer, the motorcycle, or rather the maxi scooter, not last Sunday, but the Sunday before. And I didn't break anything, but by golly, did I do a lot of soft tissue damage. So I've been icing my knee over the weekend. It has gone from about twice its normal size to about its normal size. Was able to walk on it normally this morning, but now I'm back to putting it on a chair. So if you're watching the live stream, and you see this chair, I've just made it bigger so you can see it. This chair right here, my left leg is resting on it because it's much ouch. And so we're trying to give everybody at the channel a bit of an easy week this week. And so we were like, we haven't done a live stream.
Yeah. Well,
I
we
mean,
need
that
to do
is
a November live stream, and it is November.
yes, absolutely. So there is another reason for today. Why we are doing a live stream today. I don't know if we want to do this at the top of the show and finish on something a little bit more positive, or whether we want to do it in the middle.
I mean, we could sandwich it.
Yeah, let's sandwich it because we have something horrible to talk about halfway through.
I'm not sure it's
well, it's not horrible,
horrible.
but it's something that
It's
needs to be
difficult.
discussed. It's difficult to talk about.
Yeah.
But we are going to talk about it today. So that is your warning. If you are worried and those of a nervous disposition or whatever. Anyway, you can support the channel at no, you can't. That's the wrong one. You can support the channel at patreon.com/Transport Evolved. I'll get the right button in a minute. I told you my brain's not quite right yet. I'm going to have a cup of tea.
Yeah, I screwed my timing up, so all I've got is water. But it is a full official British pint of water.
Oh, cheers. That's good. So we have been doing lots of cool stuff on the channel. We've got lots of cool stuff coming up. We're going to be giving you our traditional Thanksgiving video on Thanksgiving as a surprise. We've also got the Transport Evolved gift guide, which is almost finished. And honestly, it was supposed to be done yesterday, but because of the accident, I decided to give myself a bit of a rest. But on the topic of Thanksgiving, let's be mindful of our wastage, because I think something that we don't talk much about when it comes to Thanksgiving is how we collectively cook a huge amount of food, certainly in North America, and a lot of it ends up being wasted. So if you are in the process of talking about or planning your Thanksgiving, just give yourself a little bit of pause and ask yourself, how much food do I need to prepare? And why am I doing it? Because I think a lot of people get into the mindset of, well, this is traditional. We've always done it this way. And sometimes you might find that you don't need all of the food that you're going to cook. Additionally, you may find that food that you cook can be used in multiple different ways. A good example this week is I made a stew yesterday with some vegan sausages and loads of root vegetables. And I actually used carrots and potatoes for the stew, and that's going to keep us going until Wednesday. But you could actually wash the carrots and the potatoes and then use peelings for crisps, which I thought was brilliant. I'd never done that before. I tried it yesterday and it was brilliant. So try it if you haven't. Have you ever done anything like that, Kate?
I mean, I haven't really used peelings, although I have used. We save the rind from cheese, because you can use that as part of your. You can freeze it and then you can use it like months later when you're cooking, which is always nice.
Oh, I've never tried that.
I've always been a big fan of like reusing the leftovers. Like, you just turn whatever's left from your previous meal into the next meal. That's the way it goes.
Yeah, and we had a couple of people this week discussing veganism in the comments section, and I'm just going to say, hey, I'm not vegan. I'm not vegetarian. I have been vegetarian in the past, for various reasons. It is more difficult for me with my various medical conditions to be vegetarian, and so I choose to consume less meat than I used to. And any meat that I do consume, I try and make it as ethical as possible from an environmental point of view. I know it's a touchy subject, but yeah, making sure that you don't throw stuff out. And I think it's something that I see a lot more over here in North America than I used to see back in the UK. It might have been the socioeconomic group I grew up in, you know, where money was a bit tight, and so you reused everything you possibly could, and kept cooking things until there was nothing left.
I think
Or
it's
whether
also
it's
an era thing. I think
Yeah.
food waste just got worse, particularly as like supermarkets have got more into packaging everything, because it used to be that traditionally you buy vegetables and they wouldn't be packaged, but now quite commonly they're somewhat prepped and packaged. And if you have a disability and you need that, that's great that that option is available. But for a lot of people, you don't really need it, but it's cheaper and easier to buy 20 onions instead of the 3 that you need, and then you find
Right.
that half of them have gone rotten and end up going in the trash, which is sad.
Which is sad. And there are some things that I'm doing this year for the first time that I've never done before. So I am trying to grow carrot seeds from carrot tops. So you use you cut off the top of your carrots, you put them in some water, you grow them. Once they start sprouting some roots, you can't get another full carrot because you're cutting off the taproot when you harvest the carrot, but you can grow those carrot tops and encourage them to produce flowers, which will give you seeds, and then you can plant those seeds in future years. And so things like that are a really great way of trying to save a bit of money, trying to make sure that your consumption is a little bit more appropriate. Obviously, that only works if you have a garden. But one of the things that I want to kind of push towards is to encourage more people to experiment with gardening. And we're still in the process of trying to set up something for next year where we have a garden club where you basically follow along with us as we grow things in our garden. And even if you just have a space on your patio, or you just have a window box, things you can grow. I think being in touch with how our food grows and where our food comes from is something that we all need to do more of, especially as climate change becomes more felt, maybe, Kate.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that people are going to have to do is start looking at what you're growing and what you can grow. I know a lot of farmers are starting to worry about what they are able to grow in a specific region and having to look at shifting that because of the way that climate change is impacting them.
Right. And sorry, carry on, because there's something I want to add in a second.
Oh yeah, and I just think as we go forwards, you're doing gardening just because that's the way your gran did it is not gonna work, because we need to be looking at what the climate is going to be in your area, and trying to tailor what you're growing to the climate as it shifts.
And I think one of the things I wanted to bring up here, and let me see if I can do this properly with a bit of a screen share here. The reason I mentioned this and kind of winded it from Thanksgiving meals to more general food is that, was it yesterday or a couple of days ago, the USDA, the US Department of Agriculture, updated its hardiness map, its plant hardiness map. Now, for those who don't know, how do I explain this? This map basically tells you what zone you are in based on the average winter temperatures where you live. The colder the zone, it starts with 1A, that's the coldest zone, and it goes all the way up, I think, to 13. 13B is the warmest zone. And based on that, it tells you a whole load of things like what time of year you can put things in the ground, what kind of things you can grow, and how long your growing season is. Now, for the first time in a while, they have just published a new version of this. And here's the scary thing: about one half of America, of the USA, sorry, want to make sure I'm talking about the United States because this is just for the United States. But about one half of the USA is now in a different zone to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked on the map, and I am now in, I believe I'm in zone 8A. And that's based on the, you know, the coldest it gets in winter. It's not the average temperature, sorry, it's the coldest it gets in winter. So -12 to -9.4 Celsius, which is kind of 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about as cold as it ever gets here. I think last winter with wind chill, it got colder than that, but this doesn't actually take into consideration wind chill because wind chill is not felt in the same way, obviously, in the ground as it is when you're out and about in it. And so basically everybody has moved up a couple of zones.
Yeah.
It's really scary, Kate.
I mean, it is really scary. It is. Although I did see an article from a climate scientist over the weekend who was saying that they actually have some hope for the first time that they've had in years because of the infrastructure bill and the investments that have come out as part of that. And also because I think because finance analysts are starting to look at climate change and go, oh, this is an enormous risk. And
Yes.
once they look at it and do that, then it gets harder to invest in things that are incredibly climate destructive. But, you know, we're trying to turn a very large ship around with like a set of wooden paddles. So it's a slow process.
Yeah, it really is. It
But
is scary.
But I was going to say, this year, I actually just reminded, I grew some tomatoes. Like our tomato season this year was actually really quite long. So despite the fact that the tomatoes I grew, I never actually got as far as potting out, and they were really miserable in their tiny little pots. I grew some, there's this Italian variety of tomato that you can store for like 6 months. And yeah, if you keep it on the vine and just keep it somewhere cool and dryish. And we picked some, and I had the last of those yesterday, and we picked them
Yes.
a good month ago, and they just sat in the bowl on the side, and they were fine. Had them in scrambled eggs. They were very nice.
Yeah, we had by the way, thank you very much, Robert. That was very kind of you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much. We have I think we had the last of our tomatoes about a month ago. They were the last of the tomatoes because I pulled all of the tomato plant of the greenhouse, and it was in the chicken and garden update. And again, they stayed on our counter for a long time, and then ended up. I think it's just before my wife spent a week away. It was just before the accident, in fact. But yeah, the hardiness map is changing according to the scientists who worked on it, which includes the US Department of Agriculture, but also the PRISM Climate Group at OSU, that's Oregon State University, said that the 2023 map is about 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than the 2012 map across most of the US, most of the contiguous US. That is about almost a degree Celsius.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that comes as a result of that is not just what plants you can grow, but also what pests you get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what pests survive, because this year was rough for wasps and bees for folks living in Washington State, because there were a lot of very weirdly angry wasps and bees. I mean, you know, I think it's fair enough to say that the insects have a good reason to be annoyed at us, but
Yes.
but yeah, there were a lot. And you're going to see like pests change and move, and we've seen diseases change and move as the climate shifts. This is the very exciting experiment we have all ended up
been
partaking
co-opted.
in.
Yeah, we've all been co-opted into.
Yeah.
In Maine, we really need solidly cold winter to help reduce the deer tick population. Yeah, it's a problem we're seeing. It's not just things that attack the vegetables and the trees and whatnot. It's also, it affects the animal population. That is like, that leg hurts. Do you want to go and ice it?
No. I'm taking the ice off. I've just concluded that it's had its 20 minutes and I need to take it off.
My leg is
20 minutes
currently
on,
not
20 minutes
ice.
off.
Yeah, my leg is currently not iced. I decided not to ice it for the duration of this, but as soon as this is over, I'm going back downstairs and I'm going to ice. Anyway, I want to be really clear here. I know a lot of people will be like, you're a transport channel. Why are you talking about gardening and weather? I just like,
They haven't met us. That's
it
clearly
is
the problem.
all connected, right? It is all connected. If you want to be an engaged consumer, you need to understand what the heck is going on and why, certain vegetables have become more expensive, why certain foods have become more expensive. It's not just people being greedy, although there is an element of that, but also where you get your food from. I've talked about the fact I still drink milk, cow's milk, but I only buy cow's milk from a local dairy that has a very well cared for and looked after herd. It's a small herd. It's an independent dairy. They don't do anything weird to their milk. They don't feed the animals loads of genetically modified stock or give them unnecessary medication. And for those who don't know, I did grow up on a dairy farm. My dad was a dairy herdsman. We didn't own the farm, but we worked on it. And so I know what, well looked after animals look like. And so I try and make sure that if I'm going to continue to consume products that do have a reasonably high carbon footprint, that I do so in moderation, and I do it from a local farm that has a good reputation. So eventually I would like to have some goats so I can have my own goat's milk, but that's a different topic that's definitely way out of the remit of what we would normally talk about on this channel. So let us move on to some of the topics of things that we want to talk about. So I guess we talk about YouTube now, Kate.
Yay! Yeah,
So
we've had people commenting that we've been putting too many ads in our videos. We haven't put any ads in our comment section. I mean,
that's next. I'm sure that is next on YouTube's grand master plan.
Yeah. But people have been commenting that we put too many ads in our videos. First thing, I think it's important to say, whether or not we monetize our content, which we do, YouTube will put ads in. It's just whether we get some money from that or whether YouTube takes all of it.
Right.
So there is no, like, for a channel our size, there is no, we put a video up and it has no ads on it. YouTube will put ads on it regardless. I think that's...
Yeah, I think that's now standard across the board. I think the only time that it wouldn't monetize it is if you decide halfway through that you are somehow you're doing something that would upset the advertisers, but then you'd risk having the content taken down.
Yes.
So
yeah, I mean, you could start each stream with each video with a 5-minute expletive run and then see how that goes, but I don't think that would...
Right. Also, I mean, YouTube has... I think the important thing to remember here is that YouTube is owned by Alphabet, by Google. And the whole purpose behind YouTube is to make money from adverts. And if you are watching content on YouTube, you are the product. You are the product.
Yeah,
now,
you are the thing that YouTube is selling.
It's not us. It's you. It's your eyeballs. It's your attention. And look, I think there is a trend in online video streaming. Netflix, however you feel about Netflix, is starting to put more and more adverts in their content. Amazon is talking about putting ads in their content. All of these online platforms are increasing, they're creating new tiers. And the new tiers are your premium tiers where you can opt to not have adverts if you pay more per month. If you have a more standard account, as most people do, you will start seeing adverts, more adverts. That's deep. I'm the product of YouTube. You are the product. And advertisers are sold you. They are sold this thing up here, the squishy thing inside your skull.
I kind of want to put up the blipverts from Max Headroom at this point, but there
yeah, yeah. And so YouTube has changed how things are being advertised. They used to give you the choice when you uploaded a video, do you want to put adverts on this video? Yes or no? And then it said, do you want to do midstream? Do you want to do beginning, end cards? Do you want to have you basically got to choose the type of ad that you could add to your video. Now, back in the day, YouTube didn't automatically monetize a video if you said you didn't want to. And just as a bit of a side here for Chris, how do you get revenue from a YouTube Premium viewer? I have not seen an ad in years. If you have YouTube Premium, a small, tiny proportion of your monthly income, of your monthly fee comes to the creators that you watch. And I think they do it based on how often you watch that creator. They have some kind of metric. But if you think about the fact that how much is YouTube Premium a month now?
I don't know.
It's $14 a month, right? If you have the basic. So $14 a month, you don't get to see as many ads. Yeah. So what we now see, YouTube Premium is worth it for me, but as you say, I'm starting to see product placement pop-ups in videos. Yeah, it's happening. So now YouTube is putting more adverts in, and it now gives you the choice. Do you want adverts or not? And you say yes or no. And as Kate said, if you say no, they still put ads in, but then they keep the money. So if you say yes, you get adverts put in, but you don't get to choose what type of advert are now being aired. You do get to choose where the ads are placed in a video to some extent. So YouTube automatically places them. To go in and put and tweak where the ads go in a video is quite laborious. And word has it on the street, although I've not been able to prove or disprove this, word has it among creators that if you go in and you start tweaking videos and tweaking where the adverts are, YouTube gets a little upset with you. So what we are now starting to see is more lengthy ads, more 10, 20-minute ads that are played. Often they are non-skippable.
20-second ads?
No, 20-minute ad.
I have not encountered a 20-minute ad that
I have. I have. 20-minute ads are becoming a thing. Companies will pay to put their entire YouTube video in front of yours. Often, sometimes if it's a controversial topic, there will be a video from an opposing side that will put thing in. And one of the things that we've seen a lot of, despite us trying to report the video and ask for those videos to be removed, we're seeing a lot of videos from people on the political right. I would say Nazi videos, but that might get me into trouble.
You would say that, but you didn't.
I would say that, but I'm not that stupid.
No.
One of them is the D-Trans documentary that is doing the rounds right now, and I use the word documentary very loosely.
That's a really, really far-reaching stretch for the word documentary.
Documentary is doing heavy lifting it was never intended to be doing in that statement.
Yeah.
And that is, again, causing us problems because if you skip those ads, you report them, you don't get as much money from them.
But
And
I
now,
want to say, though, please do keep reporting the terrible ads from the right-wing people.
but don't report them to us. You have to
No.
right click on the ad and then report it to Google.
There's a little, the little hovery, when you hover the
They
mouse
make it
over it,
very,
there's a little info box thing that
on the
pops up
right-hand side of the screen.
and you just click that, and then it says, why am I seeing this ad? And you can go through and say, I do not wish to see this ad because it is harmful. And then you can report them. And then absolutely nothing will happen. But
nothing will happen.
But YouTube will go, oh, maybe they didn't like that one.
And then they'll play a different ad from the same company to you a few weeks later, which is what normally happens. Now, I don't want to rehash things that we've said in previous videos, but I feel like this is a good time to do that. So Fully Charged Live, Vancouver. We were in Vancouver. We had just stopped at your favorite coffee shop.
Mm.
And
I think it is actually currently my favorite, which is inconvenient.
Yeah, your favorite coffee shop. And we'd picked up some other stuff and some food, and we just got back to the truck. We were heading back to the US, and we got a phone call from my partner manager. And I'm not talking my actual partner. They call them YouTube partner managers, and their job, supposedly, is to help creators like us navigate the world of YouTube. The reality is that they exist to sell you products and to sell you to advertisers.
Yes.
And we explained all of this to said person, and he basically said,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of propaganda doing the rounds, even more than they used to be. Did we get to see a Harbour Air electric beaver? Sadly not, Robert. We would have loved to have seen one, but we are hoping to do that at some point in the future. So there are more extreme ads on YouTube. Please don't report them to us because we cannot do anything about them. You have to report them through YouTube's system. Additionally, YouTube has now started some other practices. If you use an ad blocker, you will be banned by YouTube eventually. Unless you have a very clever proxy service that strips the ads out and makes you just basically have a blank screen. I'm waiting for someone to develop that. You know, an ad that goes, a system that goes, oh, this is an ad. I can tell it's an ad because it has a skip button. I'm going to send this to the ether and pretend to YouTube that you're sitting there dutifully watching it while I'm basically buffering your content for you.
Yeah.
I think
the other thing that I find quite enjoyable is to watch from a country where I don't speak the language. So watching from, Switzerland or Sweden, actually I kind of speak those languages, but, enough that I can just be like, this is an entertainingly bizarre advert, from a culture that I don't really quite get. This is quite fun. So that's helpful. And I also don't see PragerU when I do that.
No, it's only a US thing. Thank you very much, Chris. You're very kind. Thank you very much. Banned by YouTube. Ain't gonna happen. Well, it is starting to happen. And look, the challenge to this, Robert, it's a good point. Someone was asking if Pi-hole still works. As far as I know, yes. I have success with Pi-hole, but sometimes Pi-hole gets in its own way. If you don't know what Pi-hole is a program that sits on a computer somewhere on your network, and it handles all of the requests that go out and come in to your network. And it's very clever. It has a list of sites that it has a block list and a site of lists that it allows. I had to stop and think about that because the old terminology used for that is not appropriate to use. It's It's derogatory. So a block list and an allow list, by the way, if you are still using the old terminology that had colors in it, please don't. Please use block and allow. It is a more appropriate thing to say. Apparently, Pi-hole does not work on YouTube. I don't use it because I have YouTube Premium. But yeah, YouTube
I don't use
is
it because I have a VPN and I tell it that I'm in like Romania and they don't have enough adverts.
right. I have a computer that currently resides in Sweden all the time.
Oh,
It's in
master
my
control
closet.
program.
It's in the closet, but it lives in Sweden. And look, this is the
Oh, is that
problem.
the moment? Is this where we're transitioning to talking about something else?
I don't know why I would have a computer that lived in Sweden. I think Sweden's quite a nice country, although it has some political issues. Let's not forget. But you know, if you are going to have a computer in a European country, Sweden is possibly a better country to have it located. Anyway, so there's a bit of an arms race, right? YouTube is trying to block people who are using ad blockers. And as some of you have commented, software developers are ahead of the curve, and they keep changing up things to make sure that, you know, that everything is still works and you can avoid seeing ads. But at the end of the day, if you are using an ad blocker, and we have heard from a lot of people who are adamant, like, I shouldn't have to watch ads to watch your content. I think at the end of the day, the reality is that we have to make money somehow. And if YouTube isn't giving us a choice as to whether we monetize it or not, or rather isn't giving you a choice as to whether you see ads on it or not, we would much rather that people watch our content with ads, because that actually helps the channel grow, and it's a good way of doing it. Even if that means you press the mute button. I don't like ads. That's why I have YouTube Premium. But at the same point, completely trying to circumvent the system can sometimes lead to unintended consequences. And I hate that I'm saying stuff like this, because I am not a huge fan of the state of affairs right now.
I mean, I would say if you want to watch our videos without adverts using an ad blocker, that's fine. But
please
you
consider
need to-
supporting us in
yeah,
other ways.
consider supporting us in some way.
Yeah, if you are a Patreon supporter, go ahead, use an ad blocker.
Yeah.
If you send us a couple of bucks a year, fine.
Yeah.
Do that. That works.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, to one person watching it with an ad blocker, and you know the amount of money they send that we get from that one person skimming
is
in a
tiny.
year. If you send us $2 a year, you're probably paying us more than YouTube is for your eyeballs.
Absolutely. And you know what? That is the way to do it. We would like more people. And look, if you don't want to watch our content with ads, and you don't want to support YouTube, and I totally get that, because I don't, watch us on PeerTube. We have a PeerTube account. The problem we are just about to hit is that we are hitting our 50 gigabyte limit on PeerTube, and I need to talk to the instance owner and go, hi, is there any way that we can expand that to maybe 100 gig? Can I pay you some money? But
well, it's either that or we just start removing the videos like it is our most recent N videos.
Yeah, and that is going to be the other option available to us. Sorry, I'm trying to get my leg comfortable and it's not working. So in addition to the revenue changes, because YouTube is changing how much they pay us, this is something we've been talking about a lot. We're making a lot less money than we used to on YouTube. And it's not because our content is rubbish, as many people tell us on a regular basis. And it's not because I'm ugly, or Kate is ugly, or we sound weird, or whatever else it is you want to say in the comments. We get that on a daily basis sometimes. You know, the people who say, what is that thing? And think they're fun and original and, you know, humorous.
I just say, I work in an ER. I have been called worse things by better people than anyone on the internet.
Yes. And you've had things thrown at you that we'd
I
rather
have
not.
had bodily fluids thrown at me. If you think that your comment is witty and humorous and intelligent, and you're going to hurt me more than the body fluids, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
sorry.
Exactly. So, if you're someone who, says stuff like that, it's not going to have a huge effect of us. Patreon for the win, by the way. Is
If you
YouTube
are if you are someone who says things like that, go and spend some time on Reddit looking at egg IRL. I feel that there may be things you have not addressed. Sorry, I've broken Nikki. I do apologize. She'll be back with you shortly.
Is YouTube censoring super chats with Patreon? I don't know, but there's just weird stuff going on, and it is becoming harder for us to monetize. And I've been really honest with our audience. If our continued issue, and thank you for that, Robert, if our continued drop in YouTube ad revenue continues, we are going to have to dramatically change how we make content, and also when we make content. And we're going to have to start figuring out other revenue streams. I'm not allowed to talk about it. Other than to say I took part in some anonymous consultation work on Friday. That anonymous consultation work was through a third party. Through a third-party agency, and the third-party agency basically acts as an intermediary so that the person providing the consultation and the person receiving the consultation doesn't know who the other person is, unless you happen to get on a call and you're like, oh, hey, it's Bob from down the street. How you doing, Bob? But then you're expected to be grown-ups and, outside of the consultation, not acknowledge that, yes, I just did a consultation for whoever. It was kind of market research. I think it's fair. I think I can talk about that and just say I did some market research consulting, advising someone on trends in the industry. It was done completely anonymously. I don't know who the person I was consulting for worked for. I have some thoughts, but again, I'm not going to share those. If it comes up at some point in the future and I can positively identify that I worked for XYZ, then I will probably have to go through some tough hoops to make sure that that is not going to affect how I report. I don't think that is going to be the case, though, because it was completely internal. And it was early on. It was early stages. But suffice to say, in that consultation session, which lasted 90 minutes, I actually earned more money in that 90 minutes than I have earned for Transport Evolved the entire month. And it wasn't that much money. So I might have to do more of that looking forwards. I can tell you, I do not think it was a big oil company. Let's just leave it at that. If I ended up consulting for them, then I would be very, very, very stuff. Thank you very much, Robert, for your stuff. I don't understand quite your message, but thank you very much. There was some problems with Oklahoma. That Canoe said it had delivered a vehicle, and then Oklahoma was like, no. So I'm leaving that one the heck alone. We did talk about it a little bit in 10 this week. Christopher says, I only subscribed a few days ago, but this chat's convinced me to stay subscribed for sure. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I do want to point out that this live stream is going to be long. I do not expect people to stay for the entire live stream. However, it is also Thanksgiving, and I know some people like to put something on when they're watching TV. And heck, you could even put it on when you go to sleep.
Oh, yes.
One of the reasons I am in such a fantastic news. Fantastic news. What do I mean?
Mood?
That's it. One of the reasons why I'm in a fantastic mood. I'm not masking very well today, in case you noticed. Am I not masking very well today?
You're fine. You're doing all right. It's all right.
I'm okay. So when I'm in pain, I don't mask very well. Masking in my case means that my brain does a load more processing before whatever I say happens. But normally when I'm either really relaxed or tired or I'm in pain, my sentences don't make sense.
You've been doing okay so far.
I've been doing okay. Kate, I trust Kate to let me know.
I'll just end the live stream. And we're done.
And we're done. Nikki is not making sense. So there was a board. We're talking about going to sleep with things. So you could listen to us while you go to sleep. That's fine because it still counts as a YouTube. I actually went to sleep last night to a school, the Sherman Independent School District's community board meeting, which is about 5 hours long. And I watched it. I started watching it in the evening while I was preparing supper and kind of watched it on and off throughout the evening, and then went to sleep with the end of it. And it was about a chap called Max, who is a 17-year-old transmasc student who was prevented from being one of the lead roles in the school board, the schools, one of the schools productions of Oklahoma. And the school board, Sherman Independent School District is in Texas. It's in kind of around Austin area. And there was a lot of controversy about it. They went back and said, oh, this play is not appropriate for high school students. And they tried to kind of weasel out of it. But there was a school board meeting in which lots of people stood up and supported this chap and his drama department that he was part of, and the school play or the school musical. And it was a really good, positive experience, save for a few unsavory sorts who were going to rail against, woke mindset virus or whatever it was they said. The majority of people who spoke positively and supportively of this chap and the school and its drama program, and eventually the school board reversed its decision and has allowed him to play the lead role, or one of the top roles. So that's what I went to sleep last night, because I was very happy. Actually went to bed with good news for once. That was nice. So yeah, I don't care how you listen and how you watch this, but there's going to be a long thing. All right, so we talked about the YouTube. Have we talked about Firefox and YouTube?
No,
I guess we should just throw that in real quick, and then we'll
especially as a Firefox user. So it's come out today or yesterday, one of the 2 days. Hey, hello, anonymous freak. And Nikki is trying to fall off the chair in pain. So that's not good.
I moved my leg, and then my stabilizing muscles went, no, that is not a thing that we should be doing right now.
So yes, Firefox has been or YouTube has been found to have put code in their page. That means that Firefox users have to wait longer to load videos because they want you to use Alphabet's product Chrome, which is soon going to have a lot more advertising
tracking.
Tracking.
They're doing more tracking. Yeah. WebKit is a good alternative if you don't want to use Firefox.
Yeah.
And there are some, and if you want, I'm just going to go out here and say it. If you want to be completely anonymous on the internet, you should be using the Tor browser and DuckDuckGo and other search engines like it.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you should be doing if you're going to be completely anonymous, but not using Chrome is always a good start.
And the irony here is that the only thing that this streaming software will run in is Chrome. So I'm currently staring at Chrome. But yeah. And there is, of course, a lot of people say, well, why don't you use Brave? And do we even want to go there?
Let's not go down that path.
Let's just say that the founder of Brave has some political views that are not in line with our existence.
Well,
no, they are incompatible with our existence. How about that? It's a bit like some of Elon Musk's recent views are incompatible with the existence of certain groups of people. I wasn't going to talk about it, but we've come around to it now, and I'm just going to say it.
Well, yes. Well,
Um,
it is.
I'm just going to watch the viewer count disappear as I say this. Wow, it's already starting to go down. Elon Musk has made anti-Semitic comments. He has shared anti-Semitic comments and content. He has enabled the sharing of that through his social media network, X. He has done the same for anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ in various guises. He has posted content that has been demonstrably proven false, specifically relating to Paul Pelosi, who was the the husband of the former Speaker of the House. And he's done some other stuff that has
he has been very problematic of late. That I would say of late. It's becoming quite a long time this late.
So we as a channel are really starting to have issues covering Elon Musk. And if you are apologizing for Elon Musk and saying, yeah, but Tesla's great and Tesla's doing great stuff, I think you need to check some reality and go, yeah, okay, it is possible to praise the car company, but you absolutely, if you are going to praise Tesla, I think you also need to criticize him. And that is possible. I'm not saying that, we shouldn't cover Tesla, because we need to cover Tesla. But covering what he says, Elon Musk says, is becoming problematic. Do you have anything to add?
No, I think that broadly covers it.
And it is difficult for us as a content creator, as a channel, to do that. I still think that Tesla can do great good in the world as a company. I just wish that he wasn't the man in charge, because I feel that he is bringing down Tesla. And that was proven last week by the stock price tanking or falling. Let's be more appropriate and say the stock price fell last week, which seemed to be in line with some of the comments he'd been making. And it's worth noting that the New York Stock Exchange has a fair number of people working within it who would find those comments very distasteful for personal reasons. How about that, without making generalizations?
I mean, there were some generalizations, but I think a lot of people are beginning to realize that they find his comments rather distasteful.
And there were also people who said this week, oh, but insert medical reason here. He is on the spectrum. He is whatever. And I fall back on what my argument has always been, which is I have plenty of friends who are on the spectrum who are autistic or identify as someone with a different medical condition that is in the same overall DSM group of whatever. And every single one of them strives to be a better human being. And I do not believe that anybody can use the excuse of a medical condition as a reason why they can't be a decent human being. And I know that I'm cognizant that he's not doing that, but I am very cognizant that there are lots of people who are saying that. In the same way, let's be completely fair and honest here. I've got off on a rant, I'm sorry. In the same way that it is totally okay to go, I really like the Ford F-150 Lightning. I think it is a fantastic vehicle. I own it because I like driving it for the jobs that I have to drive, although I don't like driving it generally because it's huge. But I like what it's brought to the Transport Evolved family. I like what it's brought to my own family in terms of capabilities. I think it's a crackingly well-built vehicle. Do I think that Ford is doing good things all the time? Heck no. Every time Ford
Yeah.
comes out with another gas guzzling SUV or pickup truck, I have to go, yeah, this is not good.
Well, this is the
Same
same.
with
Like with Kia, like I like Kia. I like my car in the sense of I like Kias. I like the cars that they build. I think they do a good job. I have some hesitant positive regard for the fact that they are very much more blunt about the fact that they're like, we're doing this because this is a good way to make money. And
yeah,
while they have done some of the public facing rah rah rah, we're really green because being green is the future, a lot of their statements to the press and to shareholders have bluntly been, this is going to be the way that we make money, this is the way we see it. But I am incredibly critical of the fact that they have continued to sell vehicles and build products for Russia.
mm,
I think
yeah,
that is atrocious.
yeah.
So I can enjoy the car and still think the company is doing bad things and say so. I can. It's a
Yes, and
both and. I can say
yeah,
I can hold two contradictory things because I'm a human and able to do complex tasks.
and I think Otmar has it. Read the rant. I'm always trying to understand Elon and the conflicts, and I think that is the key, right? I think the problem comes when we place any one person, any one company on a pedestal and says that person is perfect, or they're doing an amazing thing, or they're a genius, or we couldn't survive without him or her or them. There is a danger when we put people on a pedestal, whether it's somebody who's aspiring to be the leader of a country, whether it's someone who is aspiring to be a business leader, whether it's somebody who is aspiring to be a spiritual leader. As soon as we forget that that person is complex, and as soon as we forgive that person for all of their bad stuff because they do one or two things really well, we set ourselves up for a really slippery slope.
Yeah. Yeah.
We set ourselves up for a slope where we become apologists for those people. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that, the people, the Chevrolet Bolt or the F-150 Lightning that I own are perfect, because they're clearly not. Ford has some big issues. GM has some big issues. But at the end of the day, I'm driving an electric vehicle that both of those companies made. Or I'm driving electric vehicles that both of those companies made. And those electric vehicles allow me to not be a supporter of a company run by somebody I have serious misgivings about because of the personal attacks they've made on people like me. But also, I am constantly calling out Ford and GM for the stuff they do. Constantly. And I am in a privileged position. I have the ear of people within the press department. And if I think a company is doing something that they shouldn't, I will tell them. Sometimes in my own words, in a review, and sometimes when I'm at a press event. Maybe that's why we don't get invited to press events.
I think that might be something to do with it. Is that we do like. I mean that is the thing. That is why we are who we are. That's why we do what we do. And that's why the channel is the size it is because we don't suck up a lot. I'm happy to be nice to people and be
No,
friendly,
I'm always polite.
but we don't. We say it like we see it, and that does not always necessarily go over very well.
Case in point, right? The last time I was at a Nissan event, I had a whale of a time. I had a really lovely time. The last time I was at a Nissan event, I had a lovely time. However, I'm just going to put this comment up, but I'm not going to read it. So if you're watching this video live and you want to see what's on screen now, go read that. I think that, yeah. I think that, so where was I? Yes. So the last time I was with Nissan, it was at a Nissan event. I called out some of the things that Nissan has been doing that aren't really very clean or green. And I also pointed out to Nissan, to some of the executives that were at this event, look, I think this car that you've invited me here to drive is great. I enjoyed it more than Kate did.
Yeah, you did.
I maintain that the car I drove and the one we had on review were completely different vehicles made by completely different people in completely different places, because the one I drove was really great fun. Anyway, we also have to so I said, look, you've got all these Nissan Leafs that are coming out of their first, second, third owners, and they're entering into the used market, and a lot of these cars face an uncertain future because of how you have treated battery replacements, because of your corporate policy. And if you truly want more electric vehicles on the road, you have to support your older fleet as well as your modern fleet. And I've repeated this conversation with Ford. I've repeated this conversation with most of the major OEMs that I've had a chance to talk to of late. Great. This new vehicle is brilliant. I like it. It's going to be great. It's a bit expensive. Hopefully you're going to bring out a more affordable version. However, what about the vehicles you made 5 years ago? What about the vehicles you made 10 years ago? And Nissan has really failed those early Leaf owners by not giving them a pathway to alternative charging, by not giving them a pathway to battery replacement. And it is my personal view, and I will metaphorically die on this hill, that after a car ceases production, automakers should be required, after a certain period of time, automakers should be required to hand off the specifications of the battery packs that originally went in those vehicles. Here's the pinout. This is, there's a multi-pin connector. Here's the pinout. Here's what the battery management system is doing inside the unit. If you want to replace that battery, if you want to commercially develop a new battery pack for it, be my guest, go away, come back. We'll give you a test in one of our vehicles, because all automakers keep their past production vehicles somewhere. We'll run it. We'll make sure that it's safe to use on our vehicle. You can pay us to verify it. That'll be part of the process. And then you'll get approval from us, and it will say, okay, this product that you've designed is approved to go in our vehicles from this year. And we need that.
Yeah. And the
we
thing that's
legitimately do.
The thing that's really frustrating, like I drove an iMeave back in England, and with the modern battery technology, that car would suit me just as well today in the US as it did in Europe. Because with modern battery technology, that thing could probably do 100 miles and that would be fine. But I can't do that. I mean, apart from the fact they won't let me import it here because it was a Japanese spec car, I can't. That there is no upgrade path, and that's so frustrating, because not only, with gas cars, if you want an upgrade path, you have to change the engine, and then you also have to change the brakes and so on and so forth. But with EVs, realistically, you can make a vehicle that was a shortish range EV into a medium range EV with the upgrades in battery technology by changing the battery pack, and then give it another 10 years of life. Yeah. And not having that is so aggravating. So aggravating.
And look, when it comes to the Leaf, I'm always going to recommend the Nissan Leaf as a vehicle that people should consider buying used. And I can just see so many angry people leaving so many angry comments in the comment section. If you don't need to travel long distance, the Nissan Leaf is a great car to buy used, as long as
temperate.
As long as you're willing to invest in a replacement battery pack at some point. And there are some great companies out there. There are some locally here in the Pacific Northwest, some in other parts of the US, some in Canada, some in other countries, that will take your Nissan Leaf and replace the battery pack and give you a new battery pack. And yeah, Stefan says, I know of an iMeave with 250 miles of range. In Europe now, people have started to make third-party iMeave battery replacements.
I should have stayed there and kept my iMeave. I love that little car.
I mean, whether you should have stayed in the UK is necessarily the question here.
No,
And
in Europe. I could have been in Europe.
yes, could have been in Europe. And you look, Foxhound's Follies, it should happen as soon as the manufacturer stops producing spares. Never mind when they stop stocking them. I don't mind waiting, like 10. I don't mind waiting 10 years, which is what Foxhound's Follies originally said. 10 years is a good point, and then at that point, after 10 years.
I think that the statement about when they stopped regularly producing spares, because I used to, I think I talked about this in some other video. I used to own a Volvo 340 DL. It was the best car. It was absolutely fabulous. CVT, really, uninspiring in every regard, except that it just did everything you wanted it to do flawlessly.
Well, it was a You mean it was a Renault, right?
It was a Renault engine. We don't talk about that. Until I drove it to my mum's house, and it was kind of the coil. It had an electronic ignition pack that was the coil and some other little bits and pieces. That failed. And I'd known it was failing for a while, and I'd ordered the part, but because Volvo only produced the part in runs, and to be fair, like, this car at this point was 15 years old, so it is understandable that they weren't like super enthused about producing spares for it. But I had been already waiting months at that point for the part, and then they produced a run of them. Fortunately, at the time that my car died, and I was able to get a train down to my mum's, get taken to the car and swap it. But as soon as manufacturers switch from, we are going to keep this part in stock, we're going to keep a moderately reasonable standard of availability for this part, that means you can order it and have it within a few days. As soon as they switch out of that model, I think that they lose the right to say you can't make parts for this, and I think they should be required to provide the information for other people to make compatible parts to keep those vehicles on the road. I'm off my hobby.
I'm going to give Kate a second here to fix her audio, because her audio is starting to go weird, and I don't know if it's me or her. So I'm just going to give a few seconds. But the honorable Sadala, or how he should be known, is one of the best Leaf names in Leaf mods. Dala is amazing. Dala from Dala's EV Repair in Finland. Amazing. He's just added a 400 kilowatt DC fast charger to his house. I say added. So he does work for Kempower. I think that is fairly well known, or he used to work for Kempower. I don't know if he still works for Kempower. But he made a video the other day saying, I've now got a 400 kilowatt DC fast charger at my shop. And he lives a ways out. I don't think he lives I think he lives out in the country. He was showing a picture of his local power supply. There's no way that he has 400 kilowatt service to his house. So he's planning on using batteries. And his battery emulator that allows you to use stock Nissan Leaf batteries or Tesla batteries and connect those to an inverter that will then provide power. And yes, as Stefan says, he's in the process of adding. He hasn't added it yet. He is in the process of adding it. But if you don't know much about it, you should definitely go and watch him and subscribe to him. I'll just bet Kyle, I haven't touched base with Kyle lately, has just got a B class for under for 3,000, but it definitely needs some work. So he's taking it to a shop in California. I bet he's taking it down to San Diego to the guys at, oh God, what's the name of the shop in San Diego? Quick Charge Power. They do a lot of work on Mercedes-Benz and the Toyota RAV4 EV.
That's the risky thing with those, is if they go wrong in certain ways, then nobody knows how to fix them.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's something that he's going to be working on. All right,
what stopped us getting a newer RAV4 is just looking at it and going, yeah, it's great. It's a really good car. But if something goes wrong, there is literally one garage in the US, basically, that can look at them. And even they have vehicles where they've just thrown their hands up and gone, we don't know why it doesn't work.
So talking about vehicles, And I just feel like our conversation has been really organic today, but we're hitting all of the things I want to talk about and then some. I hope that M doesn't mind us mentioning this, but M's Chevrolet Volt is very, very sickly right now. And what we really need is to find someone who's not going to charge us a lot of money to look at it, because I have a suspicion there's an earth wire issue.
And I have suggested to M that he brings it up to Olympia, because there is the garage that we used to take the i3 to, and they were relatively reasonably priced for an EV specialist garage.
Yeah. And just to figure it out, because there are some random things happening to that car. So the other day, the reverse camera stopped working, which I think might be mice. And then it throws random errors, but it throws random errors randomly. I mean, they're not always the same error, always the same time. And they're the kind of errors that should stop the car in its tracks, but they're just throwing errors and then they disappear again, which makes me think it's an earth problem.
I mean, it could either be a earth problem or a dodgy connector problem. As my dad's former GM built Vauxhall Cavalier never ever had a functional fuel quality sensor. Never. Like, we bought it new, and the entire time we had it, it would just periodically throw a fuel sensor error, and they could never work out why.
Christmas is coming. Perhaps it's Gremlins. You're showing your age there.
What, me? I've already cited Max Headroom. I think we know my age.
No, I was talking about Sally Barber in the comments.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, we don't know quite what's happening, but it's just random connections. I think it's a loose connection or a loose earth somewhere that's causing noise in the car, and it's just causing weird earthing problems. And when I say earth, I mean ground.
Yeah,
I think
the same
Americans
thing.
call it
They're
ground.
The same thing.
Basically, the return of the electrical signal. How about that? The return leg of the electrical signal. Although, if you're being really pedantic, it's not the return leg, is it, Kate?
Oh, well, we don't talk about which way the electrons actually go, do we? And whether they go there anyway, because, I mean, they're probably quantum leaping away with a flipping place.
Right, exactly. All right, so we've had some fun stuff. We've got other stuff to talk about. If you want to support the channel, please go to patreon.com/transportevolved. If you sign up for Patreon while we are live on air, you'll get a little shout out from me. Because I'm like that.
Depends on who spots it first.
Who spots it first, and depends why and how. Yeah. We did have a little bit of a drop in. We did have a bit of a drop in Patreon support, because things are getting bad financially for a lot of people. Yeah. But we did have some people asking some questions, and somebody actually did reach out. Someone, Gordon Smith. And I'm going to give them a bit of a shout out, because they just signed up as a free Patreon supporter, and that's a great way of doing it. You can sign up for a Patreon supporter amount. You can do a 7-day free trial, so you can try out things. Anyway, Gordon said that they have a 2017 Bolt, and they purchased. They were going to purchase the Comma 3 system, but they spent some time on the Comma Discord and saw some of my posts. And they're worried about general stability. My last YouTube video makes it look like it's working pretty well, though. Yeah, OPGM is a work in progress. It's not a finished product. It's not a finished product. A Comma is not
It's still not out of beta.
Right. So they just published. Was it 0.9.5?
0.1. 0.9.5.1.
Right. 0.9.5.1. 0.1.
Which
point 1.
When you start with 0.9, you're like, oh, it's quite close, and then you get 0.5, and you're like, and then you get 0.1, you're like, oh.
So 0.9.5.1. 0.1. What was that song? /. // That's the one I'm thinking of, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Thank you,
You're
Michael.
showing your age now, love.
Yeah. My age is now a little bit more than my waist size, so I'm happy. When it's the other way around, it's never good. And I have lost about 40 pounds in the last year or so. Anyway, so you're just sending me photos, Kate, for your motorcycles. Anyway, yeah. So OPGM, which is the version of the branch of comma of the Open Pilot that works on the Bolt, is pretty stable. The latest version, which was pushed at the beginning of the month, is very good. It is very, very good. It works very well. It's still in beta. I kind of want to just be really, really clear.
I mean, I think this is something that you need to be really, really clear about with Comma. Comma is a research project. That is what you sign up to do. Is the way they skirt the law is to say it is a research project, and you are agreeing to basically try this software and you monitor it and see how it performs.
And when you use it, you should be monitoring comma at all times.
Oh God, yes.
Comma is not a hands-off, go to sleep. It's not level 3. It's level 2. I think level 2 is a fair point here.
Yeah.
Which brings me actually, let's talk a little bit in a minute about level 3 systems, because some stuff came up in 10 at the weekend, and I feel like we just have to iterate that because it's all about how things are sold. So level 2, it is very competent. You are running Sunny Pilot, right?
Yeah, I still live on Sunny Pilot.
And the latest iteration of Sunny Pilot is very good. I drive your car a fair amount now because I drive it back when we're doing press fleet stuff. And sometimes Open Pilot does weird stuff. Last time I was driving your car, the car wanted to go in a direction that would have been very dangerous for me to continue in. So I yanked the steering wheel and went, no, the road is over here.
Yeah, and as things stand, I still haven't played that much with experimental mode because it isn't very good.
Oh, experimental mode is terrifying.
Yes. It doesn't identify like objects in the road, so it will not avoid a cone because it doesn't know that that's a cone. It's like, that's not a car. I only have to avoid cars and stay between the lines.
Right. So David is saying, unfortunately, no comma for Fords. They are working on it. They've got an F-150 Lightning working with it. It's in one of the dev chats. Look, I think at the end of the day, if you're someone who doesn't understand the process of software engineering and you just want a system that just works, no system, period, not even Tesla, is there yet.
You said not even Tesla, like they're ahead, and they are in some areas, but not at all.
They're not. And I think there is not a single semi-autonomous level 2 system that I've used, and I haven't used any level 3 systems yet, that are fully trust and forget. And if you're treating it like that, then you're being a dangerous person on the road.
I mean, let's be clear. Like, on the forums, this was a while ago. I think it's probably almost a year ago. But there was someone who was like, I fell asleep with my comma driving and ran off the road, and it tried to kill me. Because that's what happens if you're asleep. Well, actually, what probably happened is it kind of tracked you for a bit, then it tried to wake you up, and then it went, I'm giving up, which is a whole different discussion about what vehicles do when they stop sensing your alert, which I think should be pull you over and stop and stick the hazard lights on.
And call the enemies of the people.
Yeah.
Or the medical services.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to use that term.
What term?
The term I just didn't use.
Yeah, that one.
I forgot that I was live streaming. I'm so sorry.
I've infected you. I've infected you. But anyway, yeah. These systems are not set and forget.
No, they're not.
They're-
No.
and people think they are. People think that you've got Tesla full self-driving and it's in the name. It's full self-driving. No, it's not. You need to be watching it because it
No, and
will try and kill you
FSD is still
or
level
someone
2,
else.
no matter what someone says.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, so I wanted to bring this up because level 3, a lot of people were talking about level 3 and the BMW system and the Mercedes-Benz system. And people were going, well, why is it only working under 60 kilometers an hour? It only works at under 60 kilometers an hour because at that point, the system is functional, proven functional, reliably functional, and can operate in a way that is within a degree, I presume within a certain percentage of accuracy. Both car companies are in agreement that that can be safe. Also, there are local legislations that determine you can't operate above this speed. So they may have them operating on a closed circuit at 100 miles an hour and it may look and feel fine. But as soon as you come out into the real world, things are slightly different. So the reason why BMW's system is only level 3 at a certain speed and Mercedes-Benz is level 3 at a certain speed is because that is all that they have been approved legislatively to operate at. And it's designed to help remove the burden of traffic jams. And statistically speaking, I think traffic jams are some of the higher accident. You've done a whole lot of research into accident statistics, but I seem to recall that that was some of the more likely accident scenarios.
Yeah, I believe it is. It's a long time since I looked at them. But the other thing is that as level 3 systems, they need to be able to hand back to the driver and give you sufficient warning. And if you're
Yes.
traveling at 60 miles an hour as opposed to 37, the amount of distance that you can cover is a lot higher. And that's less time for it to say, I don't really know what's going on. Can you take back the wheel?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And even if you're thinking, okay, well, 60 miles an hour means I'm traveling a mile a minute, right? Or 100 kilometers an hour, driving, a little bit more than that per minute. It's 1.6 kilometers a minute. The amount of time that even if it's only a few milliseconds, even if it's slightly longer than that, that can be the difference between successfully stopping and not. And bringing back to Comma. So Comma is great. OPGM, the build that we currently have, and I can't remember which version it is. I'll have to look. The version that we have on my wife's car is very good at keeping us in lane now. It doesn't do the ping-ponging as much. It's very good at safely following the car in front in traffic. It will start and stop and be very great. On the freeway, when there's a moderate amount of traffic, it's good at keeping the distance from the car in front. You activate the indicator and it will safely, once you nudge the steering wheel, it will safely move out and allow you to overtake. It will track other cars and figure out what the cruise control should be based on how far away you are from the person in front. One thing it can't do on the Chevrolet Bolt, because of a software limitation of the hardware, a hardware limitation, which is it doesn't have access to the brake pedal. It only has access to the regenerative braking, is that it's not very good at stopping in an emergency. So you totally have to be on board. You have to be ready to intervene. If the traffic is start, stop, and it's kind of that rush hour where it suddenly goes really fast and then suddenly it's slowed down, you can't rely on it to stop you, because if you did, you'd be in the back of someone.
Well, and I think you really do need to stay aware with these systems, because I drive to work at a very early time in the morning when I'm doing my shifts, and a couple of months back, someone decided to try and drive through me. Like, they changed lane, and I was like, "No, I'm here," and had to stand on the brakes and swerve. And but at up to that point, I had been in open pilot, and I needed to be aware to say, "Oh hell no," because I responded before the car could. Like, I started steering out the way because I could see that even without their indicators, I could see where they were tracking to go. And I was like, that is in the space that I will be occupying very shortly.
And we all make mistakes, and computers don't yet have contextual understanding from inference the way that they need to be fully autonomous. We're getting there, but it's a long way away. Oatmar says, Tesla will strongly reprimand me if my gaze strays for more than 7 seconds. Yeah. OPGM, Open Pilot will warn you. Ford system will warn you. You have to be attentive. And look, it doesn't take long to make a mistake. Which let's talk about accidents in a second. We're going to switch over to our accident discussion.
Many
and
accidents.
We don't have a huge amount of time left, but we do want to we want to change the discussion here and talk about today. It's the 20th of November, which for as long as I can remember has been the International Transgender Day of Remembrance. And I attended my first TGDOR event. I think it was 2002, possibly 2003.
We have lost a lot of very good people.
And I really hoped that we wouldn't still need this day.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the fans who've been here a long time know that I used to run a trans support group. That's one of the things I did basically just after I came out. I took over running.
It's one of the ways we met. It's not the only way we met, but it's one of the ways that we met.
And we lost quite a number of people through the years.
Yeah. And the first TGDRR was 1999. I had to look it up. I knew that I was fairly early on when I started attending. So it would have been its third year when I attended my first event.
Yeah.
And since then, many trans and non-binary people have been, who were with us, are with us no more, either because of violence against them or because of institutionalized behavior that made it impossible for them to get the help they needed to enable them to continue to live their authentic lives. I think I put that appropriately.
I think something that's also just become really apparent to me, just, I'm not going to harp on about the books I've been reading because this is the wrong venue for that.
It is.
But they have made me re-examine some things about not just my life, but the way I've thought about things. And looking at the fans of those books, there are people the same age as us who did not have access to the same information or had their access curtailed. And, just through sheer bloody mindedness, they've survived. And they've got to this point and they've suddenly realized that this thing that they did not understand about themselves because they didn't have the information or they had a very limited view of what being trans is, means that they're, in their 30s, 40s, and only finally now being like, oh, hell, now I understand what this was all about and who I am. And that is such a hard road. Like, it's a hard road when you're a kid and you work it out and you're like 7 and you go to school and you transition. But I think it's so different when you're 35, 40, you've been married for years, you've potentially got kids, you've got a life that you've built, and you have to then reevaluate everything about who you are. And that is because people are afraid and they have passed laws that make others afraid and not able to think or talk about who they are.
So I am going to add a disclaimer warning here. If you are somebody who is affected by abuse, I'm going to give you a fair warning that I'm going to discuss abuse in a second. because it is important for me to give you the option to tune out if you need to. Kate kind of hinted that we have known each other since the late 1990s. God, I feel old. So I was a music student. I went to school, as any kid did. I was the youngest of three, and my two sisters were much older than me. And my parents brought all of us up the same. So I didn't really. I knew I was just like my sisters. That was really. It wasn't any more than that. And my mum and dad brought all of us up to learn how things work and how to repair things and how to be independent. And I don't think any one of us had a stereotypically gendered upbringing. I think that was partly down to the fact that my eldest sister, who unfortunately died she died in 2008, she was profoundly deaf. And so my parents learned to be allies. My sister was 5. So my sister was born in the 60s, and my parents, she was there first. And my parents fought tooth and nail in the late 60s and early 70s for my sister to have the same rights as other children. They fought for her not to be sent off to a special school for deaf children. They fought for her to have the same access to education. My dad and my mum didn't have a lot of spare time, but the spare time they had, they did a lot of charity work and a lot of advocacy. And I think that laid the foundation for when I came out much later on in my life. Well, I say much later. I was about 19, 20 when I was about 18 when I came out to my partner at the time. And then kind of by the time I was 20, I came out to my parents, 2021. But for me, I grew up not really understanding that there was really any difference, that you just felt like you and you were you, and that's what mattered. But it really wasn't until I went to we moved, and I've done a whole video about this on Transport Evolved Take 2. Go watch my video. I explain all about my childhood and how carefree it was until about 1992, 1993, and I moved. And it was that point that I really started to get bullied by other kids because I was different. I acted much more like the girls than the boys, and I behaved in a way that a lot of kids found strange, and teachers singled me out for that. I had some teachers who bullied me very, 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 very much. And I am a sexual abuse survivor. One occasion, it was a stranger in a hospital. Still don't know who that was. When I was very, very young. And more recently, when I was kind of in my teen years, I had a music teacher who would talk inappropriately to me. And I was very naive, and I didn't realize what he was trying to do. It wasn't until I was a little bit more mature in my thinking and my thought process that I realized. And obviously I had told my parents, we'd got the police involved and all of that. But at the end of the day, this person had convinced everybody that, oh no, he didn't mean any of it, and it wasn't a big issue. And then I was in going into my 3rd year of music school, and I'd already started to explore who I was. And I got a call from the cops, and this person had really badly, not just, I was never physically sexually assaulted, but he had progressed to physical sexual assault. And it turned out that I was the first one, which for somebody who was already, hey, I'm not who you think I am, was a big, big deal to me. And it was that pushed me over the edge. It was dealing with the police and dealing with and in the end I was called to testify in court. And the day I was going to testify, he pled guilty. And so he had pled guilty to everything else except the account that they were pushing against me. And they had said, yeah, he's pled guilty. You don't have to appear in court. And that was kind of the thing that made me go, okay, I've got to stop leading a life that will end in badness for me, because I was very, very depressed. I was very sad. I was very scared. Because this person had gone after me for reasons that were not true, as far as I was concerned. And I had been, that was the door that opened. And it was obviously then that I, back in the late 90s, I found support groups online. That's how I met Kate and some of the other people that I am still friends with today. And I was very lucky. I was in my 20s. Unfortunately, my dad passed shortly after I came out to my family. That was nothing to do with me coming out. But he loved me and supported me. My mum has been a wonderful ally and supportive. My sisters have been wonderful allies and supportive. And I am here because of support. I am here because I have allies, because I have people who love me no matter what, who are willing to go on that journey with me and allow me to find who I authentically am. I am grateful every single day that I am alive because of that. And I'm not going to lie. I suffer from depression. It is common. Unfortunately, the medication I am on for my heart condition means that I suffer more depression. The medication that I'm on has a side effect of it enhancing any natural depressive tendencies that you have. It's why I am an adrenaline junkie. It's why I like going out on the motorbike. It's why I like riding bicycles. But I'm lucky. I'm one of the lucky ones. I survived. And there are so many people here today that we remember who did not, who were singled out for being different, who suffered unspeakable violence at the hand of hate and misunderstanding. And if you have access, if you have time today, and I know that some people, the day has already ended, but if you're watching this in North America, and you want to do one thing today, one thing to support trans and non-binary people, to support the LGBTQ community, is go and find an event that's happening near you and be a witness and support those people. Just being there means so much. We could go through and read the list of names. It is really long this year. It's been getting longer, and it's been getting longer because of people like Elon Musk, Donald Trump, the continued marginalization of people. And I know that there are people who are turning off, and the number of people watching the stream have dropped, and I don't care, because these things have to be said. These truths have to be said. Be an ally. Be a better human being. Kate, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to this.
I don't think I do. I think the thing that I just want to say is, if you are affected by this, like if you have any worries about who you are, there are resources out there.
Yes, many.
And there are people out there. And, like, you can come on our Discord. We have the Rainbow Mafia bit, and you can chat to us, and we'll try and find resources. But also, it does get better, which sounds twee.
It does.
It sounds stupid.
It does get better.
Honestly, like this past weekend, like I had a shocking 3 days.
That's not the word I thought you were going to say.
I think I did quite well to do that.
Yeah.
They were like, the last half of the last day was fine. Well, actually, that's not true. Like the middle 5 hours of the last day was fine, but the last 3 days were absolutely rubbish. They were really terrible. And I came home on Sunday, and I was exhausted, and I was fed up, and I was just done with humanity. And we were meant to be going out, and Catherine wasn't very well, so we cancelled going out. And I just sat down and I wrote. And I've been writing this stupid book for 10 years that I started on a whim 10 years ago for NaNoWriMo. And this weekend, like, I finally wrote the ending. I didn't even know where the ending was until Sunday when I was like, hang on a minute, this is the epilogue. I'm writing the epilogue. This is the end. Okay. And I knew where it was going. And I got to the end of that, and I commented in our team, like our off topic chat that we have just for the team, and I commented on Discord on the server that I hang out on that's not Transport Evolved, and I commented online, and I was like, this feels absolutely bleeping epic, because I can remember me as a kid, and I had no concept of a future. Like, I could not see myself. I couldn't picture myself in a future. I had no idea that there was anything that could exist. Like, I couldn't put myself in the world. I couldn't imagine a future for me. I remember walking home from like some party and seeing some guy in a suit going to work, and I was just like, is that what I'm meant to do?
Yeah.
Is that meant to be me? And I couldn't. And I got to 20, like I got to university, and I was like, if I don't do something about this, it was kind of a close run thing.
It was a hit and miss thing, mate.
Well, in my first round of university, I am a biochemist, but only by that much. And I got through university by the skin of my teeth, and my tutor the whole time was like, there is something going on with you, and we need to deal with it. And if you want to talk to me about it, you should talk to me about it. If you want to see counselors, you should talk to counselors about it. And I was like, there's nothing. I'm fine.
I'm laughing because I didn't know this bit of I didn't know this bit, but it's like a mirror.
Every time I'd go see her, she'd be like, you're clearly very intelligent, but you're just not focusing on this, and there is something going on with you that's stopping you.
Sort it out, yeah.
And you need to, you can talk to me, you can talk to the counselors, and I didn't. And every day, and you've given a content warning. I'm going to give you a couple of seconds, because I'm going to talk about how things were for me at university. Actually, I'm just,
that's
I'm
fine.
going to talk about some self-harm stuff. So give you a minute. We can play some like mood music. So.
I mean, I think I'm just going to put like a content warning at the beginning of this live stream. It's pretty long and pretty in depth, but I also think that the people watching are the people who probably can cope with this.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I would regularly look out of like the biochemistry building in Birmingham at the time, multi-story building. And this was the early thousands. They did not have window catches on, and I would sit and I would look, and I would be like, I could just jump and this would be done.
Yeah.
This would be over.
Yeah.
And I did that a lot. I did that in my flat. I did that there. And I didn't understand why.
Yeah. No. And I think we were in that same place.
And I made myself a deal, and I was like, if I get to 21, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I did. I got to 21, but I got to 21, and on my 20th year, I had made an appointment with a psychiatrist, and I went to see him, and I got hormones, and I got the stuff that made my life possible.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, it gets better, because this past
it does
weekend,
get better.
I finished writing a 110,000 word novel, which will hopefully not be 110,000 words once I've trimmed it a bit. I'm married. I have this awesome house that I built with my bare hands and some very nice power tools. And
that's the lesbian. That's the lesbian points right there, mate.
It is. I've got so many dark points for this building. And you know what? You know what? Actually, one of the best things is, and I hate that you read the comments because it drives me nuts. But one of the things those trolls in the comment section taught me is that people can be terrible. They can be really hurtful
Hurtful.
and
Yeah.
mean and vile, and they can try and cut you. But I am a damn creature built on spite. And you
Yes,
know
you
what?
are.
You told me these awful things about myself, and I looked at you and I went, "No, I don't think I agree with you, and
Yes.
I don't think I'm going to listen to you."
See, I envy that position that you have, because I am someone who was built on, because I am a survivor of two different people doing unspeakable things to me as a child, which it hurts my mother to this day because she didn't have any understanding what my parents didn't know was happening, and I didn't have words to put it into context until I was much older. But also I was an adoptive parent for 10, 12 years to two very, very, very wonderful kids who still have a lot of emotional baggage. And if you haven't had to deal with secondary trauma, there are things that dealing with traumatized children do to you as a person that makes you more susceptible to assuming negative intent. And I have to work very hard with that when I'm talking, when I'm doing comment moderation. And you talk to me fairly regularly about negative words, and I'm
Negative
much better.
self-talk. I'm
Negative self-talk, which I'm much better than I used to be. But I do envy your ability to just roll off the comments. Maybe I need to get you to comment. But even
I
I mean, it does get to you sometimes as well.
It does, though. That's the thing, is I realized a while ago that, there is the positive aspect for me, which is that, like I say, I I have been, like, at school, I was subject of a lot of racist abuse. At When I first came out, my first partner was extremely abusive, psychologically and physically.
Yeah.
Um, and I have got to this point mostly by being like, "No,
No.
screw you. No, screw you. I am gonna be me and screw you."
And that's
Um,
why we do what we do here now at the channel, because
I
we've
know.
got to this point in our lives where we need to be authentic in everything we do.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
is why we say what we say and do what we do. It's why we don't play the influencer game.
yeah, yeah. I'm not here to pander to someone else's needs. I'm here to be me and also catch this feather.
Yes. So I was laughing about your tutor because it was my second year, I think, of music school. And I had got into music school very, very easily. I was a very big fish in a very small pond when I was growing up in terms of musical achievement and whatnot. And I got into music college. I was so most A-level students in the UK, when they go to university, most students go into their final exams knowing I have to get this grade in order to get this place at university. Right. So you have to, normally they will give you what's called a conditional offer. You have to get so many A's, so many B's, so many C's. If you go to a big university, a well known prestigious university, Oxford, Cambridge, Edinburgh, you need 3 A's, 4 A's. You may still not even get in. And so all of my friends were just like, I can't go out, I can't talk, I can't do anything. I absolutely need to get the best possible coursework, the best possible stuff. My final year of A-level consisted of me sitting in the music room office drinking coffee. And because I'd been offered 2 scholarships. Sorry, was it 2 scholarships? 1 scholarship, 2 unconditional offers. I apologize. It was 1 scholarship, 2 unconditional offers. And I turned down the scholarship because they wouldn't let me study computer music. But so there is a point to this. I got in, and obviously I was very, I was enjoying my musical career right up to this point, first, second year. And then in second year, this thing happened where I had to deal with the police and potentially testifying against a former abuser in court, and it really screwed me up. And I stopped really focusing on my music because it was a music teacher who'd done that to me, and it was a different instrument, so I was able to compartmentalize it. But I had stopped really paying attention in school, and I was stuck in my own mind a lot. And my head of department called me in after my midterms. I had failed my scale exam 3 times. And the challenge was I could play any piece as long as I wanted to play it. I was very good at learning, and I could play the piece, and it was very, very well performed. But technical stuff was always a struggle, and it became more so. And he basically went, look, you've got one more chance. If you fail this exam, you will be asked to leave. And he said, whatever the matter is, we'll help you. Which was the biggest lie in history. But that helped me again. So a lot of people in our position didn't do that.
No.
Didn't have that. Couldn't do that.
No. I where I would have been if I hadn't have had enough to scrape through and get out to be in a position where I could be like, well, I can go do a job and do something.
But I think it took you probably about the same amount of time as it took me to find the job to find a career and a path through life that felt right.
Yeah.
It took me a long time.
It's taken a while.
I'm now middle-aged. Anyway, we've talked about TGDOR for quite a long time.
We may have just touched on it just a
little bit. We do have some other things that we're going to talk about, and not one of our colleagues being out of office. Just got an out of office message from one of our team going, I'm out of office. All right. We're going to finish with some more positive ways. One thing we didn't talk about and maybe our little discussion was positive because we're still here. Yeah. We're still here. We're still queer, and we're fabulous.
I mean, that's true.
And I will say this. It is lovely when I am at an event and someone walks up to us and says thank you. And it's normally someone who goes, thank you, I feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is the reason I exist, then I'm happy with that. If allowing other people to feel seen, I'm good. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
And I've had people who are in the LGBTQ community say that, and I've also had people of color come up and say that, and I've also had people who have mobility issues come up and say that, and that makes me feel very proud of what we do at this channel. And I know that we get a lot of hate from people for trying to talk about things that make people uncomfortable, such as equity and inclusion and diversity. But we all live on the same planet, so kind of have to get used to the idea that we all work together to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Not just pay a rich person to get richer. All right. So let's talk about final things. And I know that you've got probably another 10 minutes or 20 minutes or something.
I've got a little bit, but I also need to film the Thanksgiving thing. So yeah.
Yeah. Shh. Don't let people the behind the scenes stuff. Shush. Behind the scenes.
I think people are aware that I might film stuff ahead of time sometimes.
Yeah.
And at least it's the right week this time.
I mean, I've actually filmed all my Thanksgiving stuff, so come on. What are you doing?
Well, I'm doing a live stream.
All right. So let's talk about alternative ways to get content, because somebody made a comment earlier about how all social media was designed to sell you as the product.
That's
to advertisers.
Not exactly true.
Which is not exactly true, is it, Kate?
No, because we are on Mastodon and we love Mastodon. And there's also Pixarfed if you're more into the photo side of things.
I'm going to transition over to that. I need to find a server and I'll transfer all my photos over.
I mean, I'm still on Flickr, which is the antithesis
am
of
I.
social media. Like, I just put photos up here and they get like 3 views.
As am I. I am also on Flickr. We're both on Flickr.
Yeah, been on there since, the early days
In
before it
fact,
was Yahoo.
fun fact, someone discovered me on Flickr the other day and wrote an image, wrote to me asking about the lovely costumes that I had on my oh, wasn't that pretty with the animal costumes? And it sounded as if they weren't aware the fact that I do sometimes dress up as a giant fluffy animal for charity. And I was like, you're probably fairly new to this channel. Anyway, carry on.
Yes, for charity or for other
For fun.
fun
For
purposes.
fun.
Yeah, so Mastodon is not trying to sell you anything. In fact, I would say that if you are on Mastodon and you can donate to your admins so that they can pay the horrible costs of hosting, you should. Although I say that, and my current admins do not take money for
No,
their
they don't.
service.
No, they don't. We are both on the same server now.
The master control program on our server says no.
No.
Although they have said they talked about it and maybe at some point, but not at the moment.
But we also run our own server at transportevolved.com. Mastodon.transportevolved.com/@show is our official one.
So the thing with Mastodon is that you sign up with a provider in much the same way as you might sign up to Gmail or YouTube or Fastmail or whatever. Not YouTube. Yahoo. Yahoo used to do mail, didn't they? Hotmail.
I still have a Yahoo account.
You
from
get your
1996. I got it in 1996. I just want you to know that.
okay.
I've
I
had
was
it.
gonna say maybe you're signing up for your Ask Jeeves email or something. I don't know. You sign up to a server and then you can follow people on any server. So as long as you're not on a server with naughty content that no one else wants to talk to. But all the big servers, all the major servers will allow you to sign up and follow us on our server so that you can look at our posts, which are exciting behind the scenes little snippets of life, and also an update every time that we post a video or post some new content.
So this is our Mastodon stream.
So we have on there our own work account, which has which Nikki, I, and Erin all have an account on there, and you can see like just little behind the scenes kind of things, the things that we used to post on Twitter before the situation with Twitter changed. And the thing with Mastodon is that it's not got an algorithm that's driving your content. You are your algorithm. You pick who you want to see. You can make bookmark lists of topics. You can make lists of hashtags. And those are the things that you see. So it's in time order and the things you want to see. It's not because someone has paid a certain person an amount of money to be in front of you, in peering into your eyeballs. So I recommend Mastodon.
And I'm actually making a tweet right now. There you go. Except it's called a toot.
Yes, it is a toot for ridiculous reasons. We at Transport Evolved drink Mastodon. It's very tasty. Good for you. Doesn't suck out your soul.
Is that where you've so if you don't have a Mastodon account, go sign up. Find a Mastodon server and sign up. I would avoid signing up for ones like Mastodon.social. There's an awful lot of pornography on Mastodon.social.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick a server that's more aligned with what you want to look at. So we are both on LGBTQIA.space, which is a smaller server based in Europe, and it's for queer people who are into tech mainly. Oh look, it's my personal one,
and that's my personal one. But we also have work ones at that account as well.
Yes, so check out that and follow us and join Mastodon. And the other thing is that you can watch our content on PeerTube, which similarly is not trying to suck your soul out and sell it to the highest bidder.
Right, so this is our chicken and garden update from yesterday, except it's the chicken and atgat. And you can share it just as you could share anything else, and it allows you to share in all these different platforms. You'll notice that X is not listed. But
Although
it's
you could
shared.
copy the link and paste it in X if you were unfortunate enough to still be on there.
Yes, and so we have, we have all of our videos here. It's not done via. So this is the one we did the other day. With that video, by the way, that thumbnail, Erin is a genius.
Yes.
I literally just said, "Oh, we need something to imply that, buying the Cybertruck is a commitment like marriage." And because at the time we were still assuming that Tesla was going to sue people, it may or may not. We still don't know. And so we came up with the whole idea of a ball and chain. And I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be fun if we had the priest from Princess Bride?" Because that's apparently Elon Musk's favorite movie, or one of his favorite movies.
Has he seen it?
Yes. Apparently, his favorite bit is when is it Humperdinck is trying to plea for his life.
Okay.
It was just a bit bizarre. And now you're going to make me go and find it. But anyway, it is federated. You can find it on Mastodon as well. I'm just trying to find the bit that he likes now. Apparently he misquotes Princess Drive. He misquotes Princess Bride a lot. But he keeps claiming that it's one of his favorite films.
I mean, I know that it is pretty common for tech billionaires to really love Douglas Adams or whatever, and you're like, have you read the books? Because they don't say nice things about you.
They're not necessarily about them, but people who go about life in the same way as you've chosen to do so.
Yes.
Yes.
Not personally. Like Douglas Adams did not see into the future, although sometimes I wonder.
This is one of the reasons why I really like Upload. Upload is it started off as a bit of a comedy, and now it's become a little bit more cerebral. It's a video that was made on Amazon, right? It's
now you're doing funny things. At least for me. Apparently, I'm now the host. I'm sorry. I don't actually know about Upload, so I can't fill you in on what Nikki was going to say.
So anyway, can you hear me now?
Yes. Your quality has dropped, but yes.
Oh, okay. 1 sec.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. As Bennett Elder said, surely they're not talking about me in this book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have you with no video.
But now you can hear me, right? You can hear me now.
I can hear you, yeah.
Oh, and I'm back. So Upload is a thing that was on Amazon. I think they were like in their 3rd season. It's a bit rubbish in some ways. Like the storyline initially is terrible, and there are some terrible human beings in it. But it is quite apparent the more you watch it, the more you realize that the creators of this series are making very directed, specific digs at Amazon and other services like it, and it's very funny. It's a bit like Invader Zim in terms of it's not as funny as Invader Zim, but in the same way that Invader Zim pretended to be a kids TV show.
It is a kids TV show. Nickelodeon asked Johan Vasquez to make a kids TV show because that was sensible.
So anyway, that is where things end up.
That's alternative sources of our content.
Yeah, that is alternative sources of our content. Well done, Kate. All right, we got a couple of more things. What's going on with your Thanksgiving week?
My Thanksgiving week is very chill.
I'm going to sing the Doom song. Doom, 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 doom. Sorry.
Doomy doomy doom.
Go was the brilliant.
Yes. I still, when I say, "Do you understand?" I follow it. Do you, girl? Do you? I understand.
I made 2000. We're really off the rails now. 2006. No, 2005. My wife and I had no money. We'd been together for about 3 years at this point, and she was living in the UK. We seriously had very little money, and I needed to buy her a birthday present, and I couldn't figure out what to make her. So I had some spare time on my hands for reasons I won't go into. I didn't have a job at the time, so I had lots of spare time. I went to the local shop and I got some of those individual cereal boxes. And then I went online and I found some pictures of Gur and Zim. And I made, you remember this? I made her boxes of Doom Flakes with quotes from the Zircon High Command. And I gave them to her, and I think to this day it's still her most favorite birthday present that she's ever got from me, because I made her Doom Flakes in this little cardboard box, and I had a really good printer, and they actually look like real Doom Flakes. Anyway,
My
so
Thanksgiving
your Thanksgiving week.
My Thanksgiving week is fairly chill. I have one video which is probably actually coming out the week after Thanksgiving now, because it needs some animation, which I am in the process of editing.
And you need some voiceover talent from me, right?
Yeah, it needs a little tiny bit of VO talent from you. It's already got some VO talent from M.
Yes. People ask where the voiceover talent comes from. We do voiceovers at this channel.
It's mainly you, M, and sometimes me.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You see, now I can't do that.
No, I'm much better at the voiceovers.
Oh God, she's off on one now, and so we'll be bringing this episode to a close. It's been a delight being with you, but now on BBC, we'll be moving on
the BBC, we bring you the close out. Good night. So we have some videos coming. We've got our gift guide, we've got our thankful video, and then we have to decide whether we're gonna do 10 or not. I'm leaning towards not, because my knee is still not happy. I will give you a little update on the motorbike at some point. Robert Llewellyn just came out. So in a world where I wasn't an EV advocate, I would be a voiceover person. I've actually done some voiceover work before, and I talked about this before. I'm going to find the link of the last thing that I did voiceover work for, because I was really proud of it. And it ends up now, I go, when I say that I'm going to the vegetable store, my wife also always asks if I'm going to go and see the dinosaurs, because I did an animation voiceover for a guy in the fandom. Where is it? It's called Nighttime Remedy, and I'm going to link to it. So I did a lot of the voiceover. I did some of the voiceover for this. I played the mom, and I played the dinosaurs, and the dinosaur that ran the vegetable store. Oh no, please don't hurt me. I'm just a little dinosaur with a vegetable store. And so now it's vegetables. Don't ask me why. It's kind of come into my... This is what living with me is like.
Yeah, that's why we don't.
Yeah, exactly. And Anonymous Freak is like, the stream is still going? Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is another one of our patent short and pithy streams that are very much on topic.
There's going to be so many people. I wish I could get $1 for every person who's angrily going, I don't have time to watch 2.5 hours. Please tell me what this is all about. I'm going, no, because your head might explode.
I mean, honestly, like, if you don't have time to watch 2.5 hours, then I have a suggestion. Don't.
Yeah. So that character, oh no, please don't hurt me. That was someone I went to school with. She was really good, but she was from Manchester and she was lovely. She was lovely. I thought she was wonderful, but she'd play this oboe and she'd play this really nice piece and everyone would be like, oh, that was amazing. She'd go, oh no, that was horrible. Oh no, my F was really, really sharp. And I'm not going to say her name because I probably said too much and I don't know if she's still playing as a professional. But if you are an oboist and you have come across someone who speaks like that, you probably know who I'm talking about. She's a sweetheart. I love her to bits. I haven't spoken to her for a long time. So yeah, that's my Thanksgiving and your Thanksgiving week. Let's talk about motorcycle accidents.
At Cat.
Yeah. And you're doing the weird thing now. So a lot of people have said, well, motorcycles are dangerous, blah, 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 which is true. Motorcycles are, in fact, very dangerous. And you get on a motorcycle, you should be prepared to not be on the motorcycle at some point during your ride.
Yes, assume that at some point during your ride, you will no longer be friends with your motorcycle and may, in fact, be distant at speed.
Yes, and I at some point I need to do do a proper video on that cat. I kind of did that with Chicken and Garden, but when I came off my bike on Sunday last week, so not yesterday, a week ago yesterday, I managed to bleed a lot of the speed, and I came off because I was close to home, which is where most accidents happen. I was going faster than I should have. I had it in my head that I shouldn't cross the painted line. So I waited until too late to turn in for the speed I was traveling at. And I literally missed, I went off the road by this much, but it was enough. Had I been that way a little bit more, I would have just gone around the corner just fine. I came off. I had knee pads. The knee pads stopped me from really breaking anything. I had the armor. This is the kind of armor I had. My dog chewed some of it. One of my dogs. This was my shoulder pad. I had something similar in my knee, and they're quite soft and squishy until you hit them hard, and then they become rigid. They absorb some of the impact, but they prevent you from really hurting yourself. And it's always worth buying proper gear. Always wear a helmet. Always wear a full face helmet. I wear a modular helmet. I think you have a modular helmet. But even if you have a modular helmet, always wear it down.
Yeah, it goes up so I can go into shops. And then it comes back down.
Mine comes up at junctions.
Junctions, traffic lights, stuff like that when it's hot and misty.
But the rest of the time it just goes down. It also makes it easier to put glasses on. I don't know if anybody knows this, but if you are a motorcycle rider and you have glasses, modular helmets make it so much easier to put them on and off, because that really helps. Additionally, we've both suffered accidents in the time which have led to us being saved by our gear, right, Kate?
Yeah. I mean, I notoriously came off on the M4 between London and Swindon. I can't remember where. I was just outside Swindon. If you know it, it's just at the yump where you can get air if you're going fast enough and the wind's in the right direction, which I did once. Not intentionally, just did golf going over it. But I was riding my motorcycle home from being repaired, and it had a brand new engine, and I unfortunately closed the throttle a little bit. It starved it of oil because it's a 2-stroke with an oil pump, and at 50 something miles an hour, my maximum I was allowed was 55.
It's important to note that the oil pump is not the way that the oil pump was designed on that bike meant that you had to have it driven in order to have oil pumping around the engine.
Yeah, it's driven by it's a takeoff off the clutch. So when you pull the clutch in, it disables the oil pump. But also when you close the throttle, it adjusted the oil pump. It's a two-stroke, and it adjusted the oil to the mixture, to the amount of fuel going through. And I closed it a little bit because the instructions I'd got were like, do not go over 55. And I was like, I've crested a hill. I'm going to be coming downhill. There's not so much wind. Need to slow down a bit. I'll just back off the throttle a little bit. That was an error. The engine seized a few seconds later, and it was raining. My top box was full of actually a car battery. So,
yes.
so
the car battery that the police stopped you about riding on the way there in the first place.
Yes, that's a whole nother story. But yeah, it meant the whole back of the bike was incredibly heavy, and it was raining, and I just lost it. I lost the bike at 50 plus miles an hour and came off in the center lane of the motorway. And if you want to share them, the photos are up there for you, Nikki.
Yeah, let me just grab them.
But yeah, I kept that bike. But the thing that saved me was the expensive back protector that even as a student nurse, I was like, I'm getting decent. I mean, my gear was padded because it was my not best gear, because I'd chosen that day to wash my gear, and then the company had called and said, please come get your bike. So I was wearing my secondary bike gear, which was leathers, some knee pads, and a padded jacket, but I still had a separate back protector. So I was wearing my back and kidney protector, and that saved me, because I came off that bike and I hit the deck, and I managed to get off the motorway without dying. And I went to be x-rayed, and they were like, your neck's all right and your back's all right. That is my old bike, which liked to try and kill me.
Was that Nikinda or Claire?
That's Claire. That's Claire. And you can see there, that is the result of the accident. That is the indicator got driven into the petrol tank hard enough to bend it. And yeah.
Yeah, because old East German motorbikes didn't really have much in the way of stops for the steering. You just kind of could.
Yeah.
I don't think my MZ had any.
I think there's one molded into the top, but if you slam it hard enough against the road, it turns out that doesn't matter. I mean, I remember seeing the MZ sliding down the motorway as I lay in between the cars going past me, and I was like, I'm going to die. But yeah, I got up, and I walked a short distance from the accident, but not very far. But after that, my recovery was mainly hindered because my knee protection wasn't good enough. But the top half of me, I was wearing gear. I survived.
Yeah. And I was lucky. My knee protector was a bit. My pants don't fit me perfectly if I don't have the winter stuff in them. So my knee pad moves around a little bit too much. I'm glad that it landed the way it landed. And I'm glad that I didn't damage my hands either, because it could have been so much worse. And yeah, we both rode MZs. They were both our first motorbikes. Yeah. That is a long story that we're not going to go into.
My fault, and I'm sorry.
But, I mean, we've probably burnt plenty of blue smoke in our time. The EVs are our way of making up for that. Although I also point out that my MZ, when I sold it because it was losing compression. It would still do 70 miles an hour as a 125. It had terrible compression when I sold it. Basically, I was up in the hills near Bath. I used to live in Bristol. I was heading back after teaching one of my students in Bath, and my clutch finally gave up. And I rode the 10 miles back to Bristol with no clutch. Just basically going ring, ding, 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 go into gear, ring, ding, 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 go into gear, ring, ding, ding. Then when I came down from the gears, I would basically brake to the point that the bike almost stalled, blip the throttle, and kick it down a gear, and it worked.
Yeah, they were hardy old things, MZs.
The guy who bought it off me bought it for his son, who was turning 17, and it was going to be his first motorbike. And he took it apart, and he showed me pictures shortly after I purchased it. One of the rings was halfway out the exhaust port. and one of the bearings was no longer a bearing. And it still ran. It rattled like heck, but it still ran.
Yeah, I mean, my 125, when the bottom end bearing and the top end bearing went, and it had spat metal into the top of the piston. The guy, the recovery guy, was like, "Oh, no, we'll get you home. These things always start." And then he started. He was like, "Oh, hell no!" And it was sat there idling, but it sounded like it was me razzing on a bag of spanners. It's gotta love an NZ.
And anyway, that is the end of our live stream, our 2-hour and 20-minute live stream. I've had fun, Kate. I hope you've had fun.
I've had fun.
Like I say, if you are affected by the issues of any things we've touched today, there are plenty of support groups out there, and there are plenty of support places, and you are loved and you are valid. And don't let other people tell you otherwise. We are both in a place now where we have people who tell us on a regular basis that we are loved and valid and important. Not everybody has that. And one of the ways you can do that moving forwards is to make sure that you are registered to vote. Because in our home country and in our adopted country, there are some nasty things happening that make our community feel very unsafe. And I would like to spend less time worrying about that and more time worrying about how I make the world cleaner, greener, safer and smarter, and how I encourage open source and right to repair and all that wonderful stuff that means that it's not just rich people who can afford to buy an EV. Because if there's one thing that I can take away from this year, it's been that EVs have got more expensive and more exclusive. And that makes me very sad.
In the US.
In the US.
In Europe, there's quite a lot of cheaper ones.
And as a way of finishing, and I know this sounds perverse, but their skill is just so excellent. One of the videos that we have had a chance to spend some time with this year is very expensive indeed. And we're going to be doing a review on it very soon. And there's a little bit of tongue-in-cheekness. So subscribe, support us on Patreon. And until next time, keep evolving.
What is luxury?